Moving on with the communication section, we got to identify a possible rational expression that has 2x plus 3 over x plus 1 as the answer, but also has restrictions. X cannot equal -1, x cannot equal 4, and x cannot equal positive a half. Okay, so fairly common question that comes up. They'll tell you what something simplifies to, and then they'll give you a bunch of restrictions. Well, from this, we can tell x cannot equal -1, because x plus 1 cannot equal 0, right? Because if x is -1, then the denominator here is going to be 0. So where did these other restrictions come from? Well, the only way these other restrictions happen was because initially there were other factors in both the numerator and denominator that canceled out. And if you remember, when we're simplifying rational expressions, before we actually simplify, cancel stuff out, we have to state the restrictions, even with the factors that are going to cancel out. So remember the general steps. It's factor, state restrictions, and then simplify. So now we're just going backwards. So if these two extra restrictions are there, then we know there's two factors at least that canceled out. So if x cannot equal 4, they say, then what was the factor that canceled out? Well, usually we isolate for the x, but now we're going backwards, so we would bring the 4 over and be x minus 4 cannot equal 0. So that would be the factor that canceled out. And then the other one is x cannot equal 1 over 2. So same thing, you bring that over, that means x minus 1 over 2 cannot equal 0. But usually we don't put a fraction. We don't say like x minus 1/2. I don't know, I guess it's possible to do so. But if you want to do it a more proper way, what you want to do is you want to get rid of this denominator by multiplying everything by 2. So if we multiply this by 2, this by 2, and then this 0 by 2, we'd get 2x. 1/2 times 2 gives us 1, and then 2 times 0 is just 0. So the factor was actually 2x minus 1. So that was what canceled out. And that there is your answer. Now, what if they ask for multiple rational expressions? Well, then you can write this one, and then another potential one is maybe you can add exponents here. So you could put 2 and 2. Both of these would still cancel out, and then maybe like a 3 and 3 here. So there's actually an infinite amount of solutions to this. Because even though you're putting this to the power of 2, this to the power of 3, the restrictions still stay the same. Those factors aren't changing. We're not adding another factor. You can't add another factor if there's no restriction. Another thing you can maybe do actually is you could put constants in front, the same constants, but you can't add another factor like, I don't know, x plus 3 and then x plus 3. Because if that factor was there, one of the restrictions would be x cannot equal -3, but that's not there. So if they're asking for multiple rational expressions, not just one like in this question, you can just play around with exponents, right? So just put extra exponents, put extra constants, but you can't put an extra factor, if that makes sense. But anyway, initial answer, the most simple answer, if we don't put any exponents, was this here. So we added the x minus 4 factors and 2x minus 1 factors in both the numerator and the denominator. Sometimes they'll want you to expand everything, but usually just leaving the answer like this is good enough.